So now I want to come on to welcoming Jayne. I can't remember when I first met Jayne, but I guess you could say that we have quite a lot in common because we're both entrepreneurial. She's actually got two businesses, so she can tell us a little bit about both of those. And we met through her connection, her founding of White Hot Hair. So we're obviously talking to a very similar audience, and she's got some thoughts about that, as have I, and that's what I want to explore with her this afternoon, really. So Jayne, let me say welcome to you. And my first question really is to tell us really about why you started White Hot Hair, and you know, what it's all about, really.
Hi Tricia, hi everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to come along. I can't remember when we first met, Tricia, but it was quite a few years ago now, wasn't it? I launched White Hot Hair back in 2013, and I'm nearly 64 now, but before I launched it, I'd stopped dyeing my hair, and I'd been a lifelong hair dyer. I had absolutely no idea what colour my hair was under the dye, which if I was kind, I would describe as a kind of faux brown. Anyway, I decided with the help of a very sympathetic and imaginative hairdresser actually to stop dyeing my hair. And when I did that, I became just much more aware, I suppose, and interested in this whole world of how people see women with grey hair, women particularly. And I started to look for products to help me look after my hair, because I had, you know, suddenly got this hair which was a completely different colour and texture to a degree. And I found that I couldn't really find anything that was what I was looking for. Sort of two things really: a very simple regime that would work in looking after my hair, but more importantly, I suppose, a bit more of an upbeat and positive spirit about grey hair. And that's really where the idea came from, to start White Hot. I wanted to change the conversation about grey hair, and I wanted products that if I could find them, I would be happy to use them kind of forever. And that's what I've done.
Let me just pick up on what you just said there about changing the conversation about white hair. So tell me more about that, because I think that'd be very interesting to everybody listening.
Well, I think we probably all know, and things are changing, which is great. But when I stopped dyeing my hair, one of the first things that happened was that people responded to it in lots of different ways. I noticed there were a few small positives, like being let out into the traffic more easily when I was in my car, because I think people thought, oh, little grey-haired lady, I'll let her out. I found that women of my own age, there were a variety of responses, from almost as if they were staring into the face of the Grim Reaper and thought, oh my God, what's she done? And somebody actually even came up to me. I was speaking at somebody's funeral and she hadn't seen me for a long time, and she and I had the same birthday exactly. And she said, Jayne, your hair looks terrible. Please cut it off. Please dye it. Younger women were really positive about it and just thought it was a cool colour and they liked it. And then quite a few, interestingly, men who had grey hair themselves said, oh, Jayne, you're brave. And I thought, well, you've obviously been brave for years and you didn't, you know, you didn't see it like that. So I'd been slightly oblivious to it, I suppose, before then. And then I suddenly got this sort of avalanche of feedback, and it really got me thinking about, you know, women as washed up, given up, witchy grey, and men, you know, when men, you know, think about Tom Jones or Martin Kemp or whatever, when they go grey, oh, they're absolutely lauded, aren't they, for just looking gorgeous and wonderful. But for women, it's often the reverse. And I didn't feel very happy about that.
Tell me why you think that is. You know, what's going on here? Because you've just pointed up something that always occurs to me around this. You get the silver foxes. So the whole concept for the man, the silver fox, you know, so he's sexy, he's still attractive. You know, somebody gets described as a silver fox. It's very kind of like, oh, you know, he, like you say, Martin Kemp, George Clooney, people like that, very good-looking men that have gone grey, and they suddenly become, they stay totally sexually alluring, yeah. And so what do you think is going on there?
Well, I'm not a sociologist, and there may be some on the call who could probably tell me a bit more about it, but I think that it's deeply sort of embedded in our societal makeup, I suppose, that, you know, women are here to bear children and to procreate, and men have to find women who are young in order to do that. So I think the association with you know, the sort of loss of youth is much more in the forefront of people's minds with women with grey hair than it is with men. I guess it's as simple as that. And I suppose I've looked a little bit into the history, and I think when hair dye arrived for women and they were able to dye their hair, it changed a lot of things for women and opened up opportunities for women in all sorts of different ways. So it certainly isn't a negative thing. And as you know, you've heard me say, Tricia, I'm not the hair dye police. I think people should do whatever makes them feel good when they look in the mirror. I just think it is interesting that people make assumptions about you. And, you know, people said to me, oh, Jayne, are you worried it's going to make you look older? And I find that a bit sort of insulting, really, because it didn't cross my mind that I was doing anything either to look older, to look younger. Actually, prefer the colour scheme for me, but yes, there are just so many assumptions that the only reason you'd ever do anything was because you were trying to look 35, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think that's it's so interesting we pick that apart, because these things are said so casually and so often. Oh my goodness, if you do that you'll look older. Oh, don't you look great, you look so much younger like that, you know, as if that's the biggest compliment that you can pay to somebody, and as if to say to somebody, oh, you'll look older, is the biggest insult you can pay them. And I think it draws attention to the fact that certainly within our sort of society, saying to somebody you'll look older, they don't stop and think. You know, the fact is we're getting older all the time, so of course we're going to look older. You know, that's how it works. We've had a brilliant thing running on Super Troopers at the moment, and it's pictures that people are posting of themselves several years ago. Some of them are their children or their teenagers, or they're in their 20s. I put 2 pictures up with me on my 40th birthday and me just as I started the business, so the difference was 25 years. And of course I look a lot older, but it's okay, because I'd look pretty freaky. I think I'd look pretty freaky if I now look still like I did when I was 40. In fact, it would be deeply worrying in the sense that, and of course that's what most people are trying to do, aren't they? They're trying to look the same age, not age or whatever, if they have these fillers and all that sort of stuff. So it's a weird thing. Let's get back to hair again, because running a hair care company, you must have learned an awful lot over the last 5 years or so. And so what, from your point of view, in terms of hair, do you think you've learned from your customers, and also, you know, just running this company?
I think from my customers, I've learned, and it's probably something that we all know, don't we, instinctively, that hair is disproportionately important, actually, often, I think, in how we feel about the way we look. And it's got a huge emotional attachment, hasn't it? So people, I think a lot of us are looking for someone to give us that magic something, whether it's a cut, whether it's a product, that we've kind of been waiting for our whole lives, and it's going to transform us. So I think there's a big thirst for something that's going to sort of transform. I think that's the sort of the first thing. I would say that the other thing I've learned is that the vast majority of people are incredibly kind and supportive. And, you know, in our white hot community, people are just lovely to each other. That the sort of default position that you might not think from all of the stuff we're surrounded by every day is, you know, for people to encourage each other, lift each other up, say, you know, you look great. And I've learned that. I suppose those are the sort of things from a customer perspective, from a human perspective. I think that running this business as a small business, literally starting from scratch, I've learned all sorts of things, learned something every day, nearly fallen over the edge, as I describe it, several times, and at the last minute gone, oh, no, I'm not going to do that, I'll do that. So it's been a big learning. And, you know, it's largely an e-commerce business. And so I've had a lot of tech stuff to learn, and I'm still learning that.
Yeah, ditto here. Learning all the time. Great big steep learning curve. It's and at times deeply scary. I don't know how you found lockdown. Have you got people all working from home at the moment? And you know, the whole business has changed dramatically. So we're doing the same thing with us. We don't have any office space. In fact, we've just given it up so that we're not you know, we're not renting office space anymore, and I don't know whether we will again. It's a strange thing because we've all been working from home very successfully, so there's lots of impact like that. What about women's hair from, you know, again, what you've learned from the point of view of attitudes towards things like hair length?
Well, that's a very hot topic, because for a lot of people, the idea that you're going to have anything other than a very neat short cut is, people have a view, don't they, about that long hair on women. It sometimes, people might think, oh, that's witchy. And again, somehow that we're not allowed to have our hair longer. And, there's all these sort of unspoken rules, which aren't rules at all. But it does seem to ruffle a few feathers. We share pictures of people with all kinds of hair types, textures, lengths, but I think for some people, again, it's like anything to do with aging, particularly to do with women and beauty and fashion and everything else, that there is some sort of set of unwritten rules that we're all supposed to know, but I think the vast majority of us have absolutely no intention of following them. But long hair is definitely a bit of a hot button for some people. They don't want to see it.
It's weird, isn't it? I think the very first time that I actually met you, we'd spoken on the phone a few times, but you invited me to bring up a makeup artist to a photo shoot that you were doing in Nottingham, and we were going to do the makeup, and you were going to have some beautiful photographs taken of various models, and one of them was a woman called Nikki Griffin, who I think you had come across in a bank queue. So tell us a little bit about that story, and then I'll finish my story about Nikki.
Well, it actually was my hairdresser who had persuaded me to go grey, bumped into Nikki in the queue for the bank in a village that she lives up in Nottinghamshire. And Nikki is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how old Nikki is, actually. I think she's similar age to me, but she's got this gorgeous, luscious grey hair. So Nick, my hairdresser, just said to her, your hair looks fantastic. Can we sort of, take some pictures of you? So she came and joined us with a few other people. And it was really the first professional shoot, I think, that she'd done, but she's gone on to do all sorts of things. Fantastic. She's a lovely, lovely person, but she actually, I think, was the oldest model to be, I can't remember the name of the magazine, so it's pretty useless, but she was in a swimsuit on the front of an American swimwear magazine, along with people of all sorts of different ages, looking fabulous in a great one-piece swimsuit. And maybe she was in a bikini, I can't remember, but anyway, she looked gorgeous. So she's modeling full time now.
Yeah, so what happened with me with Nikki was that I came on this photo shoot as well, and I was taking a few of my own snaps just because I wanted to pop stuff onto Facebook and say, well, I'm doing a photo shoot today, I'm up in Nottingham. Anyway, met Nikki, and Nikki doesn't just have long hair, she has very thick hair. It's grey, and it's luxuriant. I mean, it's just amazing. And she is a stunning looking woman. She's about 5'10" tall. And although I think she's a size 14, but she's got quite big boobs, but she's extremely slim below the waist. She's the opposite of me, basically. I was very envious of her figure, and she looked gorgeous and everything in all the photographs. Anyway, took some snaps, put them onto Facebook, and I was absolutely horrified with the comments that came in underneath that photograph. And people were saying things like, older women shouldn't have hair like that, it's disgusting, she looks ridiculous, oh, I couldn't wait to get my scissors to cut that mop off, things like that. And it was just like, oh my goodness me, because I had honestly very innocently put out this photograph thinking that people were going to pile in and say, oh goodness me, she looks fantastic. And they didn't, some did, but there was a lot of nasty comments. And I was absolutely amazed. So it's really got me thinking about it. And when I wrote a blog about it, I also wrote a part of my book when I was writing a chapter about hair. I wrote quite a lot about hair length, because it seems to me that, again, part of this narrative that we have towards aging is that young girls with, as they mostly do now, with long hair, they are bewitching. But older women, there's a certain point at which it tips over and you become a witch, so you go from bewitching to witch with your hair if you keep it the same length. And I just think we really need to pick that apart and think about that, because it's so cruel that you go to hag, you go into hag as soon as you've got long hair. The Nikki story is a brilliant one, because she's one of our ambassadors now. And during that photo shoot with you, she got talking to Linda, our makeup artist, who is also a mature model. And Linda gave her lots of hints and tips and told her what to do and how to start her modeling career. And Nikki hit the ground running. She was almost successful from day one, and went to the States and did all. It was just occurred at the same time that her twins were going to university, and she was feeling at a loose end. And she's developed this amazing career. In fact, we're probably going to have Nikki on a call if you're interested in that, everybody watching this, because she is one of our ambassadors. She's an absolutely delightful person, and I'm sure she will come on a call with us, and she can tell us all about her modelling career. But just going back to what we're talking about, this sort of hag and witch, if you've got long hair, I think it's one of those narratives that you and I and everybody watching this needs to really confront, because it's so cruel, and I actually think it's what women do to other women. It's part of the way that you said earlier about you're not the hair dye police, and I really like that, because I agree with you. We're not to stand in judgment over hair color. I mean, it's entirely a personal decision. It's what you want to do. But I do think that women can be really cruel to other women, and that's sad.
I agree, Tricia, and I think that we have to kind of get out of the habit and encourage other people to get out of the habit of giving unsolicited feedback constantly about how people look. And it is interesting, isn't it, on all sorts of topics, from weight to everything else, that people feel a need to sort of appraise you and say, oh, you're looking well, or you've lost weight. Or 9 times out of 10, when people tell me I've lost weight, it's the reverse. And I don't really know why they're saying it, but they're obviously, they've noticed something, but yes. And I think, one of the things that I say is that there's just this assumption that we're all trying to look young. And actually, there's only 2 choices. You're either, or a choice, as my mother would say to me. If there's 2 choices, it's 4. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That you're either clinging onto youth or you're crumbling, and that there isn't anything in between. And, I'm neither clinging nor crumbling. I'm thriving. But I just that sort of idea that you're either one or the other, and there isn't actually a whole myriad of interesting things in between.
I love that, Jayne. I think that's perfect. And I think for the audience, everybody listening to that, I don't know about you, but I am absolutely not clinging. I have no desire to do that. And I think the more that we recognize and acknowledge that that we are the age that we are, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. And I'm determined not to crumble. As far as I possibly can, I'm determined not to crumble. And what makes me exercised about that is the fact that it doesn't acknowledge that there are so many women now in this demographic. We've got 136 on this call who are absolutely neither clinging nor crumbling. We're having good lives. We're getting on with our lives, and we're doing that rather successfully by participating and by being active and by contributing to our families, to society in general. Where would charities go without older women? Blah, de, blah, de, blah. I could go on and on and on about it, but I think it's a really important message to get across. And the other thing that I just want to come on and talk about, this is something we had a bit of a conversation this morning, and I didn't realise, but you lost your husband quite suddenly and quite dramatically. And, as I said, I think you've got quite a lot of very interesting things to say about what has happened to you subsequently. So if you don't mind sharing that story, I think people listening would be interested in it.
No, I don't mind at all, Tricia. I lost my husband very suddenly. I hate the word lost, because it feels as if, it's like a penny down the back of the sofa, and if I just rummaged around, I'd be able to find him again. So I don't really like that expression, but yes, my husband died 5 years ago. And he had already actually been ill for 5 years. Although he was living a very active life, he'd been diagnosed with myeloma, a form of blood cancer, which wasn't curable. But he actually was living the best possible life he could in the circumstances. But on his 59th birthday, he went to the gym and he had a heart attack and he died. So it was very, very shocking and traumatic sort of event. Of course, I'm sounding a bit sort of glib about it now, but yes, it was. And it was 2 years after I'd launched White Hot, and he was, you know, incredibly supportive and positive, and he loved my hair grey. But it was a big, I suppose, and perhaps many of us are in this situation, you kind of imagine how the rest of your life is mapping out. And all of a sudden it isn't. So it was a big period of readjustment. And I think I've worked, you know, really, I say worked hard. I've worked hard at trying to work out how I can, you know, sort of get on with getting my life back together and actually building things to look forward to for the future. Because I've read a fantastic book by a woman called Christina Rasmussen called Second Firsts. And I actually do some work with Christina on her foundation, which is helping people get their lives back after loss. But she talks about invisible losses, which are the things that other people don't see. And, you know, one of the big invisible losses is the future that you thought that you had. So yes, that was quite a seminal moment in my life. But one of the other things it's really made me think is I can't abide people moaning about getting older. And, you know, I say it's a privilege, you know, denied to many. And so I hate that. And also that life is for living. And I want to, I've got a 24-year-old daughter. She was 19 when Gary died. But I want to show her that you know, there's another act, you know, certainly for me, there's still loads more to come. So yes, that was quite a big life change.
Absolutely. I mean, a shocking life change for you to go from one day to the next and on his birthday. I mean, all of that is the sort of the weight of that as an event. I mean, it's just horrendous. But I know there will be quite a lot of people listening to this call who've had the experience of losing their husbands. And as you say, you don't like the term losing, but their husbands no longer being with them. Mm-hmm. What would you say? You know, I'm very interested in what you said about Christina Rasmussen, because I think she run courses and things. Tell me a little bit about the kind of thing that has helped you to feel better.
Yes, so when I started, I found Christina, when it first happened to me, I couldn't read a book actually for a very long time, but one thing I could read, I read a lot of widow books, they're the only things I could read, because I felt very divorced from reality. It was very odd. But about 3 months in, I came across Second First, which was Christina's first book. And what it really is a bit of a roadmap for how to find your way back to life after loss. And it does turn on its head some of the sort of traditional views of loss as a sort of circle or a journey and all of the rest of that. And Christina at that time was running courses that were a private group on Facebook. So there were probably about 50 of us, I suppose, in that first course, many of them from America, because she lives in the US. And we had the book, we had exercises, we talked together every single day online, and then we'd meet and sort of go through things. And it was absolutely transformational for me, just to be with a group of people who really understood, who you could speak to about, you know, what you were trying to do, whether it was the most basic things of, you know, sorting out practical things for yourself, or just how you were going to get your head around, you know, what had happened to you. And Christina does continue to run courses, and the book I highly recommend. I think it's absolutely great, because I don't think the grief resources are fantastic in this country. And I think quite a lot of it is focused on looking backwards and less about coming to terms with where you are and you know, sort of taking steps towards the future. And one of Christina's parts of one of Christina's sort of philosophy is what she called plugins, which are the little tiny things you do to take you a step back towards, you know, getting yourself back to life. And actually makeup is one of those things, Tricia. You know, you might think, oh gosh, you know, it doesn't feel appropriate at all to be putting some lipstick on and sort of getting, you know, feeling a little bit more human again. But actually for me, a couple of weeks after my husband died, when I'd been just, you know, couldn't even feel as if I could put shoes on. It was hot, it was the summer, but I just, for some reason, I couldn't put my feet in shoes. I felt claustrophobic, but I didn't wear any makeup, and I always wear makeup. I've worn makeup, you know, since I was about 14. and I love it. And the first day that I looked at and I definitely did look a bit more witchy than normal without any makeup. I looked at myself and then I thought, no, Jayne, you've got, you need to find yourself a little bit. So just putting a bit of lipstick on actually was a bit of a turning point, and I didn't stop wearing it again after that. But I did question myself for a moment and thought, gosh, is it appropriate? Is it appropriate that I'm going to sort of put my face back on? But yeah, it's Christina Rasmussen's Second First. It's a good book, and she's on Facebook, and she does a wonderful thing called Message in a Bottle, actually, once a week. If you find her, I find her very uplifting, and I've had the pleasure to meet her in real life, and she's a wonderful human.
Thank you for that, Jayne. We'll put links to this if you send them to us, Jayne. We'll put links to the book, to the things that you're talking about here for anybody out there who is interested in that. I just want to pick up on what you just said about wondering whether it was appropriate to put lipstick on. I think that's a really interesting comment. It's almost like we expect widows to to hide away, to wear black, after all, lipstick would be a sign that you were still, I don't know, wanting to look attractive or something, that could be seen as a disparagement. And something we discussed this morning, that you have to ask yourself the question, why do I do this? So for me, the answer to why do I do this every day without fail, it's because it makes me feel better. I don't do it for any other reason. I'm not trying to look sexier. I'm not trying to look younger. I'm not trying to do anything other than, get on with my life in a way that makes me feel okay. And I think that if lipstick makes me feel more confident and better about myself, even if I'm here all alone and I don't see anybody for the day, then who's to say that that's not a good thing to do? And I think it's interesting that you even had to question it after your husband died. Oh my goodness, what will people think if I put lipstick on? It's this whole thing about, why would you do that? Well, you do it because actually it makes you feel more confident and more like a human being. And you use that expression, which I love, which is to put your face on. And I think we do put our face on. And if a braver face is one with lipstick, then put your lippy on and, put your head up and say, this is who I am, and it's fine, it's okay. It's this conversation that we've had today about women and the expectations and aging and, you look older like that if you've got white hair and all that kind of thing. It's part of the same process, actually. So thank you for that. And I'm delighted that you enjoy makeup just as much as I do, probably as much as the people listening to this program, because this session, otherwise they wouldn't be here, because most of them would come via Look Fabulous Forever. Right, and let me come to you. What questions have you got for Jayne?
We've had lots and lots of questions. So Jayne, I think I'll get through probably about 5 or 6, but then if I could send you them afterwards, and if there's any that we could answer, then I can just pop the answers in Super Troopers. Lots of questions about the white hot hair product. So Diana said that she was lucky enough to trial your hair soap bar, which she thought was super. Do you have any plans to put that on the market?
Yes, we do. I'm very excited about that. It will be coming out, hopefully, fingers crossed, at the beginning of April. So we did a trial run. We've got an artisan soap bar maker in the UK. She's made it for us. We gave it to some people to try. So it's very exciting. Someone's on who actually has tried it. But yes, it'll be coming out in a duo pack at the beginning of April.
Can you tell me, because I don't know what that is? What is it? What does it do?
It's a solid. It's a solid shampoo in a soap, basically. So it's a shampoo bar, and there's a couple of reasons for doing it. One, that we are acutely aware of the need to reduce the amount of single-use plastic, and as a small brand, it's very hard for us to do a complete packaging change. So we wanted to produce something that had all of the qualities of what we're trying to do with White Hot, but in packaging free. So it's in a little paper bag, and also because it's very handy for travel. And one of the third benefits, actually, in the trial, that some ladies were telling us who had arthritis, that not having to unscrew bottles of shampoo, actually just being able to do that with the bar was helpful as well. So yes, it's coming soon.
It's amazing. Maggie has said that since going grey, her hair has changed from being thick to being much finer. Are there any products that you'd particularly recommend for this?
Well, I think there's nothing in our range that we say is specifically for fine and thinning hair, and I do know that that is a challenge for some ladies once they get a little bit older or their hair is grey. We were just talking in my group about our shushing cream, because it's a little cream in a tube. You can use it in 2 different ways. You can use it on, it's a styling cream, but you can use it on dry hair just to give your hair a bit of root lift and a bit of oomph. But you can also use a tiny amount and just almost sort of clean your hands through your wet hair with a tiny amount on before you dry. And it's very good for fine hair because it just gives your blow dry a little bit of bite. So in our range, I would say that would be the go-to.
Okay, perfect. Maureen wants to know, are your products made in the UK?
Yes, they are. They're made in Yorkshire.
Amazing. And Margaret says that she's tried lots of products for white hair and has found it really hard to find one that really removes yellow brassiness. She's wondering whether your products, do you ship abroad, because she lives in the EU and she wants to try your products?
Yes, we do. We do ship everywhere. We ship everywhere around the world, actually. But that we have. I mean, usually what people use to counteract the yellowy tones is a purple shampoo. I think a lot of people, me included, are absolutely terrified of the dark purpley colours. So we've got 2 products with a very soft violet hue. One's our brilliant shampoo, and the other one's our intense luster mask. And you know, those are our recommends really for brassiness. The other thing we would say is, and I'm sure everybody does know this, laying off the heated straighteners, you know, trying to let your hair dry as naturally as possible, and you know, keeping it super clean. You know, it's like running your finger down a grubby wall with white hair. One of our other sort of natural tips, which is not our products, but we do talk about sometimes, is just to get some coconut oil and warm it up, put it through your hair and sleep in it, put a towel on your pillow. And that can be great as a natural sort of stain remover as well. And the yellowy tones are the last ones to leave your hair. And I've got a patch, you probably can't see it very well, I'm in a slightly yellowy light, that always to me looks a little bit yellowier than the rest. So the other thing I would say is that if you do use a purple tone shampoo, before you wash your hair, just put a few strands of that, you know, rub a bit through your hair when it's dry, and then leave it for 10 minutes when you're pottering about, putting a shower on or whatever, and then shampoo it out. But yes, unfortunately, yellowy tones can be the bane of white hair. Hair straighteners are the worst. So yeah.
Steer clear of the hair straighteners. Okay. And then just one final question. Lots of people want to know whether you found that the condition of your hair has improved since that you've stopped colouring.
Yes, it definitely has. And funnily enough, because often hairdressers, certainly my hairdresser, say, oh, if you've got colour on your hair, it'll bulk it up a bit. But my hair's been a lot thicker, shinier and healthier since I've stopped colouring it. But then I've been stopped for quite a while now. But yes, it's definitely just feels and looks a lot healthier.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll hand back over to Tricia. Thank you, Jayne.
Thanks so much, Jayne. I get massive hair envy when we do these calls, because I would give anything to have your colour hair, Jayne. I just love it so much. My own hair is stubbornly refusing to go grey at the front, so it's quite grey on the crown, and then the front bit is actually quite brown. And I missed my haircut, so I have all of this sort of highlighted in grey white, and I missed my hair colour appointment before they closed their hairdressers, and I can't believe it. I was so furious, and I kind of put it off, and I can't remember why I put it off, and then I thought, oh well, I'll go in after Christmas, and of course they shut, and I can see this sort of growth that I've got coming in here. But we had somebody on here from Josh Wood Colour, who is quite interesting, and so they help people with regrowth and all that kind of thing. And I explained to her what my problem was, and she sent me a product, but I think I might contact them and say, you know, is there anything you can do so that I can get this bit as white as I possibly can. So I'm very contrary, but as
your
I said,
hair always looks great, Tricia, and also you're the master of do it yourself, because I did follow your haircut how to, and I wasn't as brave as you, but I did do my fringe following your expert advice.
Oh my goodness, do you know what? That video's had 130,000 views on it or something. And I think I give people a bit of a bum steer because it says, you know, how to cut your own hair, and they actually only see me sort of very conservatively trimming it. But you won't believe this, but on Sunday I went round to Anna's, with whom I'm in a bubble, and I cut my grandson's hair. Yes, so Granny came with her scissors and they thought it was hilarious. So I didn't do too bad a job, and they've both got very thick, very curly hair. It's quite easy to cut, actually. So yeah, that was fun. So thank you, Jayne. That was just brilliant. I love talking to you, and I think you and I sing from the same hymn sheet on so many things, and it's a delight to talk to you. And I'm sure that everybody watching has got a huge amount out of that. And of course, I thoroughly recommend. I've used the Jayne cream, which I think is an amazing product. So thoroughly recommend that you go to Jayne's website and have a look at all her products, because they really are worth a look. And so again, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining us. Tomorrow's is a video, but we'll be sending out details about that from 2 o'clock, and the same with Thursday. And then hopefully, if you want to join me again for a live event, Friday for the film. So bye-bye, Jayne, and thank you. Bye-bye, Bryony, thank you. And bye-bye everybody who's been on the call. Delighted that you all came. Bye-bye.